So I'm going to start by sharing my screen with you, and we're just going to move right into the presentation. So just give me one moment while I set it up. We are going to begin this evening looking at the earth element, acupressure for boundaries. We're combining psychotherapy and the Western concepts of our thinking mind with the Eastern philosophy of the earth element and the meridians. And of course, we're going to be working with some touch therapy as well. I like to always start my webinars by asking you why you said yes to this webinar. What about boundaries or the earth element has inspired you to show up this evening? So if you want to take a moment just to quickly type in the chat while I kind of keep going, it's a nice way for me to hear how I might be able to meet you better this evening. What we're going to be exploring this evening are boundaries, but we also want to find out what are boundaries and how do we nourish them. We're going to connect with our no and our yes, and I'm calling it the yes to you. We're going to look at the earth element, understanding what boundaries are and how to nurture them and nourish them. And we're also going to learn a few pressure points to hold in a meditation, just so we can start to support this integration. Lauren says, I'm working with the 5 elements and learning acupressure with John Kirkwood. Oh, fabulous. So this is very interesting to me. Yes, John Kirkwood and I have a similar origin of our training. Beautiful. Thank you, Lauren. So let's start by inquiring, what do boundaries mean to you? And I'm going to ask you just to type in the chat as well. What does a boundary mean to you? I love this work. It opens and expands. Recent awareness, my people. Yes. Okay, Lauren, a boundary is a container or a feeling of safety. What is mine and what is yours? That sense of self and other, says Henrika. I love it. Where I and my needs end and someone else's start. A lot of the time in our culture and in our world, boundaries tend to come across as the no or the line in the sand. It comes across where we push back where other people maybe are exploring or expecting too much from us. And like people are writing, there's a real sense of safety that comes with having healthy boundaries. But we're going to, before we understand what it is and why we have boundaries, we're going to explore what they are a little bit more. So a boundary is defined as a rule and an expectation that we set in relationships. It's what people have been saying in the chat, where I am, where you are, what my needs are, what your needs are. And boundaries really help both parties understand how to behave and what behavior is acceptable and what we won't tolerate. It really helps us to say, this is okay for me and this is not okay for me. And this workshop is going to focus more on the personal boundaries rather than how to manifest healthy relationship boundaries, but they're kind of all combined. To begin with, a lot of us are familiar with going beyond our boundaries or feeling like we've had our boundaries broken. Some of us might say yes when we want to say no. We go above and beyond when we actually don't have anything left in the tank. We're not expressing our needs. We're making other people's needs more important. Maybe we don't want to upset the balance. We want to be a people pleaser. We tend to stretch beyond the I, or beyond the self, when we start to lose our boundaries. And when we start to lose our personal boundaries, we start to kind of get resentment, or some people can feel like they're being taken advantage of. They can have stories like, why don't they understand me? Or how come they just keep taking? Or what about my needs? And just quickly in the chat also, why don't we take a moment to identify some of the feelings that show up when your boundaries are crossed or when you are stretching beyond your boundaries. Maybe you might feel disrespected by other people. What are some of the feelings that start to show up for you Resentment, says Lauren. Anger, yes. Feeling obligated to others, that can really happen a lot as well. We start to put other people's needs before ours. Violated, low self-esteem. Yes, that can really show up a lot. And confused as to what to do. Oh, yeah, I hear you. Exhaustion, guilt. When we start to lose our boundaries, we stop feeling like we are important. And sometimes we even lose a sense of trust or feeling safe. Yes, Jade even says feeling like people don't care. And the interesting thing here is that sometimes that's true. But more often than not, it's that we're losing our central sense of self. And we're losing it because we're making other people more important. And ultimately, healthy boundaries is this idea that ourself or we are as important as others, and they are equally as important as we are. So when we start looking at boundaries, we start to explore this idea of the no. Now, for a lot of us, saying no is not that easy. We have this idea of who we are supposed to be in a relationship or connection. The people pleaser, the peacekeeper, the conflict resolver, the one that can do it all. And so the question around the no is, what do we fear will happen if we say no? And yet boundaries are this relationship with no. Boundaries are also a relationship with yes. And this is not the yes to others. This is the yes to you. And this is the idea of how easy is it to say yes to you. So we have no to others and yes to you. And when we bring them together, this is the sweet spot of boundary. Saying yes to our needs can feel selfish for some, but it's the key to understanding where you begin and end. I like to play with this idea of a porous stone. And a porous stone with poor boundaries means that everything in its environment is going to be absorbed into it. And it becomes a full sense of self because of how everything else is impacting it. Whereas a polished stone is filled from within, and it has this solid exterior. And it has a very solid sense of self, that the world comes around it, but it has this very clear, defined edge of where it begins and ends. So this idea of I is very much what fuels a healthy boundary. And what was mentioned earlier in the chat, when we have healthy boundaries, everyone begins to feel safe. Without healthy boundaries, we spend our time second-guessing everyone and everything. So boundaries are not just about the no, I won't. They're about the yes to you, or the yes to self. I need this. So saying no is not just a rejection of the other person. It's not a rejection so long as we include our yes. I want to give an example. If I were to say to someone no without including myself, I might say something like, you need to back off. You always want so much from me. You just take and take and take. No, I won't be there for you tonight. And that is a boundary. But with that boundary, where is the focus of responsibility? Anyone want to put that in the chat for us? Where are we making the line external? Exactly. We're making it about the other person. We're blaming them. When we bring our yes into it, we start to ask ourselves, what do I need? How am I feeling? Oh, this isn't sitting right with me. What is not being met in this moment? So the moment we start to hear this, we start to hear what it is our needs are. So the same conversation could sound like, I am feeling really tapped out or exhausted at the moment, and I need to just fill my cup tonight. I want you to have a great night out. Let's check in tomorrow. You're still saying no, but you're saying no by saying yes to you and that you care about the other person. And that only comes about, this kind of unwavering boundary comes about because we begin to understand what our needs are, not that the other person is bad or wrong. So there's 5 steps to strengthening our boundaries. One is to know our needs. This is about self-awareness. This is about, if we feel the resentment build, we ask, what do I need underneath this? When you're tired or stretched or sad, what is it that you need in that moment? And what is it that other people need? So you begin to recognize what they are asking for and what your needs are. So know yourself and know your needs. The second step is about learning to say no. And saying no, like we talked about before, isn't about blaming necessarily. It's about saying yes to yourself with a deeper relationship message that I care. So it doesn't make you or them a bad person when you say yes to yourself. So one of the invitations around learning to say no and learning to say yes to yourself is practicing low stake, or kind of practicing no's that can be easy at first. For example, I can't do that right now. Is there someone else that can? Or that doesn't work for me in this moment, but how about next week? Or I can help you up to this point on your project, but then I'm going to have to leave. So the invitation here is to learn to start to say no to others. Bring your own needs into it and remind them that you care. Step 3, communicating clearly and assertively. Now, this is again using the I statement rather than the you statement. I feel overwhelmed when I get a lot of last-minute requests from you, instead of you always wait until the last minute. Can you guys hear how important healthy boundaries are? Not just about telling where the line in the sand is, but bringing your needs forward. I'm hoping this is coming across here. Step 4 is about being consistent. Great, DJ, thank you for the feedback. About being consistent. And consistency here is, this is the tricky part. This is where we set a boundary, but then we kind of want to let it slide, or the person pushes back a little bit, or we start to give mixed signals. Consistency came up with a client the other day, and they said to me, I told my friend not to call or text me during working hours. They are disrespecting my boundaries. And I said to them, yes, they are. And it's your responsibility not to respond. You get to be consistent in your request to have that time. You get to be consistent with your need to not be interrupted during your working hours. You've had the communication, you've agreed to it, you can reply on your lunch break or after hours. That gets to be your responsibility. So consistency is key. But the 5th step to strengthening your boundaries is to check in. Sometimes we set really rigid boundaries and we realize that they're not going to work, or that you're breaking them yourselves. And then you get to reevaluate them, constantly checking in. What do I need more of? How can I nurture my needs? How can I trust that my needs are important? How can I trust that I am worthy of having my needs met? And then this is where the earth element comes in. So we're going to start by talking about acupressure just briefly. Acupressure is an ancient healing technique. It's over 3,000 years old in written text. It is essentially acupuncture without needles. So we're using finger pressure rather than needles. There are over 360 pressure points on the body. The pressure points are all found on meridians, or these energy lines that run up and down the body. And these energy lines, or these meridians, it's like a ribbon that's kind of tied together, but then folded back and forth. So it runs up the body and down the body in one continuous flow with no beginning or end. And then these meridians are kind of broken into 5 different sections. And each section relates to a different element. I like to think of it as like a surname. And every element has a different physical or emotional or spiritual influence. Each element then has organ meridians. And the organ meridians are essentially yin and yang, or the Mrs. and the Mr. So we have one long meridian system that's broken down into 5 different elemental sections, like a last name. And each elemental section has a yin organ and a yang organ meridian. So today we're looking at the earth element. And here, the earth element has the stomach meridian and the spleen meridian. So the earth element relates to the season of late summer. And this is where the garden is just ripe and it's dripping with fruit and tomatoes and zucchinis, and there's just so much abundance in the garden. It's the same time in our lives where we are vital and vibrant. The earth element is like the mother, deeply nourishing and nurturing, supporting all of our flesh. It's the part that wants to encourage the well-being of the children, to ground them, to regulate them, to teach them to be resilient, to help them not to worry, to help them feel safe in their body. These are qualities of the earth element. So the archetype is the Divine Mother. And the Divine Mother, and I say this divine because this is the absolute most pure, unconditional form of the mother. The Divine Mother wants to nurture and nourish the child. It wants the child to feel worthy. It wants the child's needs to feel met. It wants the child to feel important and loved and safe and secure. It wants to know that the child is so self-aware, so grounded in themselves, that they know where they begin and end in the world. So the earth element's emotional qualities can look out of balance when we don't have this experience growing with our mother. And if it's out of balance, the earth element shows up as overthinking, or a loss of self-trust, or lots of worry, or a sense of neediness, or even feeling ungrounded. The spiritual influence of the earth element relates to our ancestral chi. And this is the part of the acquired and inherited mind from our family and from our culture. This is where we adopt the rules of how to be in our family and how to be in our society. And so if we are raised, for example, to be always considering others' needs, other people's needs are more important than our own, we may have to learn our needs now as adults. So it's really interesting to also consider, how has our family system related to boundaries? Does our family have healthy boundaries or unhealthy boundaries? Where have I inherited those rules? And how can I fill my sense of self up better? So the stomach meridian is very much about how we receive nourishment in life, how we process what we take in mentally and physically into our body, into our muscles and flesh. And the spleen is the yin organ meridian, and that's very much about nourishing and distributing the energy or the nutrients through the body, but also really bolstering self-trust, helping us feel safe in our body, transforming worry, and this is where the needs reside. They say that neediness is essentially that we have unexpressed needs. And that kind of starts to show up when we feel resentment towards others, when our boundaries are broken, because we're walking over our needs or dismissing our needs out of habit. So just quickly here with Peter Dedman's illustrations, you'll see that the stomach meridian starts in the face. It's around the head because we tend to overthink. It comes down the front of the body, through the breasts, down the front of the abdomen, down the fleshy part of the leg, out the front of the foot. And the spleen meridian comes up the inside because it's a yin meridian, through the marshy or soft edges of the muscles on our leg, up through the sides of our abdomen, which could be quite mushy as well, the sides of the ribs ending just halfway between the front and the back. So what I think we're going to do now is we're going to move into learning some acupressure points. And my intention here is that we've had this wonderful awareness around boundaries as being the no and being the yes to you, and helping us understand how important our needs are in communicating what gets to happen in relationships moving forward. Then we started looking about how the earth element and the meridians kind of carry a similar quality of where my body begins and ends, this idea of nurturing myself and nurturing my worthiness and nourishing my needs, as well as what we've inherited from our parents around belief systems. So now we're going to bring all of that into the acupressure points, and I'm going to ask us to kind of let go of all the thinking mind and just start to notice what happens as we feel these points. We're going to learn 4 pressure points in total. The first point we're going to learn is called mandible wheel or stomach 6. And it's on the side of the face, about 1 finger width in front of the angle of the jaw. So you might see here that the angle of the jaw is just where that kind of comes out as like a 90, or probably a bit more like a 70-degree angle or 110-degree angle. I'm not very good at geometry. And we're finding the corner edge of that jaw point where the width of the thumb from that corner of the jaw, right in the joint of the jaw itself. So if you were to now clench your teeth, you might feel that your jaw bulges. And this is the masseter muscle bulging here. So what I'm going to ask you to do is we're just going to gently massage in little circular motions on the edge of the jaw, just wherever it feels comfortable. And I encourage you to put your finger onto your jaw, onto this point, 1 thumb width from the corner. And rather than moving your finger around, keep your finger static, and then just very gently with your finger static, moving around so that the muscles themselves get massaged. This is a wonderful point for any tension in the face. So I'm just inviting you to close your eyes if you wish. Toothaches, digestion, helping to hold back feelings, self-expression. And it really can help us understand feelings that are beneath the expression of anger. Metaphorically, I love to think of the jaw as like the drawbridge to our inner being. When we say we're going to do something and we don't want to, we tend to clench our jaw. When we have anger because we've been overextending ourselves or frustration at other people's needs, we tend to clench our jaw. We tend to grin and bear it, push through. When we take a moment to massage through the jaw, right through stomach 6, on the edge of the jaw here, we can take a moment just to be quiet with our thoughts, to begin to consider what our needs are, to begin to consider, why might I make someone else's needs more important? Am I important? What would be different if I decided that I was also important? I'm just continuing for another few breaths, noticing what's happening in the jaw. Notice what's happening to your breath. And just seeing if you can soften through your shoulders a little. We're going to move to the next point. Burdened by abundance. I'm not going to show you my legs, but I am going to refer to the illustration. Stomach 40 is halfway between the bottom of the knee and the top of the ankle. So my invitation is that you reach down towards your legs. It tends to be, if you put all 8 of your fingers together, it'd be about 8 of your fingers down from beneath your knee. And I'm going to have you start by just finding the top of the shin bone. And once you find the top of the shin bone, you're going to measure 2 fingers towards the outside of the leg. So you're halfway between the knee and the ankle, and then you're 2 fingers width outside in kind of a fleshy part of the leg. This point is called abundant splendor. And again, we're going to have you hold it on both legs at the same time, just closing your eyes. Again, holding the finger static and just slightly moving it around over the point. And it tends to feel a little bit achy as a sensation. This point helps to move dampness, which shows up as fluid retention or phlegm or digestive and respiratory issues. But dampness emotionally is also a sense of scarcity and worry and overthinking and emotional imbalance, so kind of like an internal heaviness. This is a really good point, like I spoke to earlier about that idea of the polished stone, where that sense of self becomes solid and stronger, pushing the porous edges. So your true, authentic, abundant self gets to show up and expand outward. When we have an imbalance, this point can be really powerful if you find that you don't receive compliments well, or you don't like to have the attention on you, you'd rather deflect it away. Or maybe you overtalk a little bit. Or maybe you feel burdened by abundance, burdened by too many requests, too many needs outside of you, and you begin to feel kind of heavy for it. This point helps us take pause. It helps us to move this dampness or move this heaviness that we feel. So we can start to notice what our internal needs are, what our internal truth is. So let's continue to massage this for a moment. Maybe closing your eyes and just noticing where your mind goes. What part of your life you might like to have better boundaries around. Maybe it's work or a relationship or a parent or a child. Just wonder what you might need in those environments to help you feel that you're more aligned with your truth. When you're ready, just taking a nice deep breath in and out and slowly releasing these points. The next 2 points are also on our legs and our feet. The next point we're going to be looking at is spleen 6, and this is 4 fingers above the inner ankle. So this is the inside of the foot where your arch is. And here's your ankle. I want you just to measure 4 fingers up from your ankle on the soft side of your inner leg. So it's right behind the tibia, which is that bone that you feel on your inner leg. So 4 fingers up, and then just right on the edge of the tibia. And it can be very sensitive for some people. This is a wonderful point because it nourishes the blood, very good for any gynecological issues, helps to balance emotions again, especially around worry and anxiety. It helps to ground. It helps to kind of harness that internal strength that we're talking about here. That internal strength that helps us know our truth, know our need, and nourish it. And it's called 3 yin crossing because 3 yin meridians pass through this point. The spleen, which really helps us to build trust in ourself and our worthiness. So holding these on both legs at the same time if you can. Spleen really helps to build our sense of self-trust. Really helps to build our sense of self-worth, that our needs are important, that we can nourish this, become whole and solid and strong. And the kidney meridian runs through here also, and this is the ability to feel safe in our needs with other people, or to trust in other people's ability to take care of themselves. And the liver meridian also runs through here, and the liver really governs kindness. It also governs that part of us that wants to grow and change and become. And it gives us the energy to start to assert ourselves in the world. So closing your eyes for a moment, just want to inquire, what would be different for you if you were to have better boundaries in life? What could be different for you? And we're just going to allow 1 or 2 nice deep breaths here. Then the final point we're going to learn. Spleen 4, on the inside arch of the foot. So if you draw a line from the inside of your big toe up over that bunion to the highest point of the arch, you're going to find spleen 4. And you might feel there's a little bump in that arch. Might feel the metatarsal there. You're on the big toe side of it. So maybe drag your finger over the bunion, up the highest point of the arch, and when you feel that bump, just stopping. And I'm going to ask you to hold this on both sides. So if you're sitting cross-legged, that might be easy. Or if you're sitting in a chair, you might just be bending forward, resting your head on your knees and massaging the inside of your arch. This point is called grandfather-grandson. It's used to help balance the spleen in the stomach, so it helps to balance the whole earth element. It helps to ease digestive concerns, once again, worry. It helps to cultivate a sense of safety and security in the self. Once again, when we know what our needs are, we can feel safe and secure in holding ourselves in the world. So it helps to establish boundaries. But grandfather, grandson is a beautiful call on that spiritual influence of the earth element also, where we start to heal the unspoken family rules. In this case, how boundaries maybe were passed down, or the lack of boundaries, passed down through generations. So as we hold this point, we get a chance to open the meridian and open the element, these two meridians, and invite healing around our relationship to boundaries. And I want to be gentle here too, though, because sometimes we commit or overcommit. We walk over our own boundaries to meet other people's needs because there's a promise behind their action. There's a promise that if I do more for my teammates, for my husband, for my wife, for my mother, for my children, for my friends, then, and there's a hidden promise, then I can relax. Then I can feel safe. Then I will feel important. Then I can have a bath. Then I will know that I am enough, or prove that I am enough. And so a lot of the times we rush past our boundaries because we are seeking something externally. The invitation here is to swap that equation around. How can I feel important for myself? How can I prioritize myself a little bit today? And how would I like to show up for other people in my life? Just taking one more nice breath in and out with spleen 4. And letting that go. And just sitting back up in your chair, we're just going to do a quick little finishing step. Nice little balance through the chakras. I'm going to have you start by placing the right hand on the crown of your head, very light like a feather. And then your left hand will just rest on the forehead with your eyes closed. My needs are important. And then dropping your left hand down to the base of your throat. And taking a nice deep breath in. I am nurtured. Bringing your hands down to your heart center, just resting between the breasts and the sternum. I'm learning to hold myself as I would hold a small child. And bringing the left hand to the upper abdomen, just resting on the flat of your upper abdomen. I am worthy of nourishment. And then dropping your right hand down to your lower abdomen, just beneath the belly button. I am learning to say yes to me. I'm just taking a few gentle breaths in and out. Just noticing your body, noticing the quality of your mind, and just noticing your thoughts. Thank you. Boundaries. Learning to say no. Learning to say yes. Learning to be consistent. Continuing to care. But borrowing on the earth element of nourishing and nurturing yourself along the way. That you are important. And you are worthy. Thank you. I'm going to welcome everyone to just check in. You can pop your cameras back on if you like. You can chat in the message. Lovely. Great. Grounded and cozy, relaxed. It's just nice for me to catch the sense of the room. Thank you so much. Calming. Okay, beautiful. So Henrika, thank you so much. I'd love to hear from you. And if the room wants to pop their videos on, I'd love to see your faces now that you're feeling calmer and nurtured and centered and warm and a release. Oh my goodness. This is beautiful. Oh, this is what my heart wants. Okay, lovely. Henrika, thank you so much. Over to you, darling.
Okay, awesome. First of all, thank you, Adria. I do feel really, really relaxed. Like your webinars or your master classes are amongst my favorite, just because I always personally get so much out of it. And guys, so what I'm going to do is I'm not going to take much of your time. I'm going to be talking about the 2 types of courses Adria runs at Krishna Village. So you are up to date if you do want to join any courses. Now, which courses am I talking about? So in the chat box, the first thing I'll drop for you is the link to the Fusion Acupressure training page. That doesn't mean immediately click on it right now, but if you want to look at later, maybe open the window so that you can look later. So the Fusion Acupressure training is 6 days long. So what is the Fusion Acupressure training course about? It always the short of it is combines the best of acupressure, of qigong, and of life coaching. So it's about learning how to balance the 12 meridians. So much more than what we have looked at today. You get a manual also where all these points are explained. Easing pain, clearing the mind, helping people align with their hearts. So you are practicing this on yourself and on each other, giving and receiving throughout the week. And that will get you ready to be certified and then practice on other people professionally as well. So Chinese wisdom blended with modern psychotherapy tools. So it combines really well for massage practitioners. It combines amazingly for yoga teachers, combines really, really well for life coaches and people who are working with people's heads. Because as you can see, Adria takes it from being a mind-based thing, but always brings it down into the body. So it helps people embody the shifts that they are making. So that's a really sweet course. The other course we have, if you're not ready to commit to something, I've just met you, Adria, I don't know you at all, what are you talking about? But if you're really fascinated by these whole Chinese 5 elements, etc., there is a coaching course that we have that Adria offers. That's a Friday to Sunday coaching course. She calls it a self-mastery training. So 5 modules about the 5 different elements. So there are techniques in counseling, techniques for coaching, and for intuitive development. So it helps you to either coach people one-on-one through the lens of the 5 elements. And I've heard so much good feedback. So we have been running these courses for, what is it now, 7 years or 8 years? It's a long time. And over and over and over, I hear from particularly this course, I didn't think I would get so much out of just a weekend. There's a whole thing I now have to offer. So it's for one-on-one, and a lot of people run self-development circles, self-awareness circles with this as well, because it helps you facilitate a group experience, which is, again, a really nice add-on if you already are a practitioner in an adjacent modality. So one-on-one coaching is there, self-mastery circles are there, and always, of course, as you're doing any of these courses, self-empowerment. Yes, and for this course, the link on the website, hang on, where is it? Let me just copy that over into the chat box for you. So if you're interested in the 5 elements on the weekend training, that's the link on the website. And then there's one other thing that I just want to mention, because sometimes
Before, I'm just going to pause for one moment. Before you mention that, if you have any questions, please stay back and then we can have a little chat as well. So if you want to wait just a few more moments.
yeah, I'm almost done. So what I'm also now popping into the chat box is a link to Adria's contact page. So that's not the Krishna Village website, that's Adria's Fusion Acupressure website, because some of you may be thinking, is this right for me? Am I ready? Am I good enough? All the questions we have before we do such courses. So if you want to have a chat, Adria offers a 20-minute free little consultation where you can ask her all the questions you need. If you have questions about the bookings, about pricing for accommodation, if there's anything not clear through the website, by all means, email us to Krishna Village. Adria doesn't have to bother with these kind of questions, but if it's about the content of either of the courses, just make an appointment with her and she's more than happy to answer all the questions and reassure you if it's the right time for you right now or what you need to get ready. Okay, that's me done. Thank you very much for listening and bearing with me. I'm handing it back over to Adria now for the Q&A. So if you have any content questions about this particular webinar today or general course questions, anything goes. You're welcome to ask.
Enrica, I want to just thank you also in the Krishna Village for being so generous with these offers. It's quite incredible. And just for those of you who have or haven't been to the Krishna Village, it's kind of a it's very beautiful and rich with the Krishna consciousness, but it's very forgiving and allowing. So I am not a Krishna devotee. There's a lot of permission to be on this 1,000-acre property just to enjoy the beautiful food and the environment. So, but do we have any questions from today's webinar or from any of the courses that I might be able to help you with? Oh. I want to thank you all so much for coming this evening. Yeah, of course, it's time to go too for all of us. Thank you and have the most wonderful time. You can just close off your video and on the one day, I love the one days. Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. I hope to see you again. Bye for now.